we're kind of like, we're lined up in order of abstraction. You're trying to make an OS. You're trying to like basically do a game engine.
See, Sam had to actually write font rendering. You can write font rendering like him, but he actually wrote font rendering. There's a big difference.
Yeah.
How do you do font rendering in Ooga Booga?
He makes the quads and puts the UVs on the font atlas correctly.
Right, so you turn fonts into something to feed DirectX.
Yeah,
That's a function that somebody else wrote.
I write the tight assembly loop with this specific CPU in mind for how, and then I serialize out the exact bit I serialize. I offline convert to the exact format so I can like load something into the CPU, and then the bits are lined up to turn on and off which color to write.
All the way on the other end, Randy writes draw text.
I write draw text. Yeah.
No.
And you're a web developer right now.
So I think the topics that are going to be the most interesting are centered around programming, because no one cares about our opinion on like life or anything, but we've spent the last however many years of our lives just eating, shitting, and breathing this one thing. So it makes sense to talk about that.
I don't think I've ever talked about programming in my life.
Honestly, like before this moment right here, I've never talked to someone else about programming in person ever.
I don't know if I even existed before this.
Yeah. I think you just got loaded in, you know?
Yeah.
Guys, I despawn when this is over.
There's just nothing interesting to say. Like it's kind of a bad...
There's a lot of interesting stuff to say.
What is there to say?
So like the central question always is why object-oriented programming is bad. And why we should write an ECS, because ECSs are great. And just basically make as many abstractions as possible, right?
You need an ECS sometimes. Like they totally used it properly for Overwatch.
Okay.
They totally did. I don't know.
Wait, is that because they want to do the thing where you build the systems and things are flagged so they interact interestingly? You have like an interaction matrix.
Yes, and it's not just that, but you have to cooperatively make a very complex system made by dozens of people to all be good. I don't know.
So that's the interesting thing, the dozens of people. Are you saying that like...
If there's one guy, you could fucking put it all in one file, and he can use whatever organization scheme he wants to organize the complexity.
Right.
And it's fine. But the idea of like programming is that it's a logistics problem. Programming is never like a technical problem, really, usually. If it is, then it's almost like computer science or like theoretical, what algorithm will accomplish what we need, instead of a practical problem of like, there needs to be an executable with some bytes in it that does not yet exist.
Right.
How do we like organize the people and things so that it exists? That's like
the really interesting thing to me. So like arguing why OOP is actually good, and like what it solves, and like in this case, like what does the ECS solve?
It solves you have many different parts of the game as a product that are evolving quickly, made in parallel, that also has to run fast in parallel and just accomplish complicated feats.
So made in parallel as in like one human's doing this, working on this system, another human's doing this, working on this system, and now like that's the problem that we're solving?
They have to like just imagine, if you can imagine the case where like there is no system for how we're going to integrate the stuff we make, then the two people would make separate executables.
You should mention Conway's law.
I know that Conway like studied this and thought about it, but I don't remember his law, and I thought it was kind of
Conway's
mediocre.
law is that each piece of, I think it applies to engineering, but well, it's more a software thing, right? Each software product will resemble the team that made it.
Yeah, it makes sense.
And so basically you can see the org chart, team structure in the final product.
Of course.
Because you have to make some decisions like, well, if you're making a car, the like tire team who make the tires don't need to talk to the guys doing engines.
Yeah.
Because you know that they have nothing to do with each other.
Well, ECS is like the shape of the car. And like if the shape of the car put the tire like in the engine somehow, then they would need to talk to each other. The whole point of ECS is like this is going to be the shape of the program we make. And so now these parts don't need to necessarily know the full context of each other in order to both be in the same program.
Okay.
Yeah, but I think the problem is like, okay, I'm making this program, and then you decide from the start, okay, I'm going to make it an ECS.
Yeah.
Then you're like, you have no idea what the problems are that you're going to need to solve. So it might end up being like, oh, actually, now I have to work around how this system works to solve the actual problems.
Okay, so if you're Solar and you're starting a project, making an ECS isn't the way to go, right? You just throw everything in one big entity structure.
Unless your product is an engine that other people will use and make it
right for the purpose of okay, that checks out. So now,
or maybe for modding. I don't know. I've never done a game with modding.
Yeah.
So I don't know how modding goes down.
Or if you're used to, I think it makes like practical sense if you have used an ECS for a while and know how it works. Like there are just true statements for every situation, and it is a true statement that somebody who's worked with ECSs a lot will be effective with them as opposed to an empty file, because they can think about the effect they need from the program and know what components the systems create that effect. And that's like the important thing.
Yeah. It's like they have reps on the pogo stick.
right.
You could be like, oh, the pogo stick isn't as effective as my like
Race
2
car.
feet. A race car does not do the same thing as a pogo stick.
No,
is
but
why
if the guy can't drive, he has to use the pogo stick. Or maybe the pogo stick is more object-oriented program.
I think the race car's ECS and like opening a file and typing is like
the spaceship.
it's not the spaceship. It's like the
No, it's building the spaceship.
okay. Here's the immediate problem with these comparisons: is there's no like speed. This is like this is a bad analogy that will just.
All right, let's just backpedal a little bit. What problem are we trying to solve?
We're trying to figure out why we're in a forest, right?
Or we're trying to make a game, right?
Yeah. Trying to make a game. Okay, so something I'm really curious about, which is why this whole like thing is leading me down the idea of like, okay, why is OOP good, and like an ECS in this case? It's because like it allows multiple people to work on the same game together.
Well, yeah, but it's a really bad tool. Look, what you need is a
why?
chart.
Like-
You need a description where it's like, I've deduced ahead of time that the tires have nothing to do with the engine. And so I will work on the tires and you will work on the engine, on the car. For a game perspective, it would be something like, I've deduced that skeletal animation and like doing mesh skinning does not have anything to do with rigid body
you're
physics.
talking about tooling. Okay, so like when it comes to gameplay and actually adding in content to a game, like that breaks down because like everything's really like kind of like interconnected.
Yes.
And there's no hard boundary. So the reason Charlie and I work really well together is because like he just does all the engine stuff, and the engine stuff meaning like all the tooling that has like a hard, clear boundary of like renderer, sound. What are some other examples? But like basically things that you can say, here's something that you could go do, and like we could work on that in parallel. Now, we've tried like doing gameplay stuff together in the past, and to like different degrees of success, I think.
But do you know what the game is ahead of time? Like, do you know what the design is? Because if you knew what the design was, and you just had to build it, then you know what these, there's going to be this system and this system. You could identify which are more connected and which aren't, and you could work on them.
You won't really be able to identify that very accurately for a whole game.
You can't
so then,
do that
then,
ahead of time.
then you're saying like, I'm actually doing a different problem. I'm designing a game as a team, which is different. But still, you could still have the thing of like, once you have a player character going, like, and some system, some code for handling enemies so they can walk around. Like, two guys can make different enemies with it not conflicting at all. Because it's like, I'm going to create this kind of entity.
Yeah.
I'm going to make a model. I'm going to give some animations. I'm going to come up with some interesting behavior that it has.
Either way, I think this problem will shake out when we just work on it and have experience.
Yeah, it's like anything. Just like practicing it, and you will. I mean, like you're going to. It's not going to be perfect. You're going to like collides every now and then.
Yeah.
But like when you're working on a project with other people, like a big part is the communication and see what's going on, and that's like how you figure out during the game who should do what. I don't think. I think like trying to blindly follow some paradigm is usually not going to solve that problem.
Yeah, but going back to why OOP might be useful to somebody, it's just because that's like the tool they've learned to do this breakdown, where they're like, I'm gonna do this class and you're gonna do that class, and we have an agreed upon interface where I can call public methods on you, and then we have some API. That's the purpose it serves. It serves the purpose of dividing up responsibility of stuff to work on.
Now, could you not just do the same thing but without OOP?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, how would you do that? Files?
Well, it depends. Again, you need to kind of know how to do. What you're saying is, there's going to be some code over here, say code bit A, and then I'm making code bits B and C, and B and C talk to A, but they don't talk to each other. Right?
Okay.
And then you could write them, like as long as A doesn't change, then B and C can be written against A.
So I think this is going to be really interesting because, like, the project that we're working on right now, the plan is to get the demo out on Steam and then port it over to Jai and then just go all in on some cool stuff like multiplayer and modding support and just, like, figure out that problem. And I think, like, ultimately, like, just trying to do modding support is this problem. It's like, how do you get a bunch of people working on the same thing to where it compiles into the same executable and you run the game and it's like there.
Do you guys know how Paradox Interactive do their mods?
No.
So they have everything runs, like the game is basically just this program engine thing that runs their own internal scripting language, but it's kind of like your thing you were talking about, Terraform or whatever, where it's completely declarative.
Their mods are declarative?
Yeah, there's
lame.
no imperative code. It's all like, so basically most of the game is in the form of scripts of like, here's a script that's like declaring what this country is, and there is this event that can be triggered when XYZ happen, and that leads to this thing, and so that they make lots of stuff that isn't imperative code that's running.
Like that would like front load like you would need to come up with the entire system ahead of time. And,
yeah,
like,
right. But that's why it works, because they have like, okay, so you build the game systems like, there are troops, they live in provinces, they move around and stuff.
So,
and then all that the mods are doing is like changing out what content the actual imperative code is running.
I'm interested in the inverse of that, where it's like you're programming a bunch of systems and they all go into the same game. So like, think about it from like Minecraft's perspective, right? You have the base game of Minecraft, and then you add in, let's say, like some kind of mod that you have electricity in the game, and you have these generators and stuff, and it's like this whole thing.
Yeah.
So it's like adding an extra, and that extra content is like an entire system.
Yeah.
So it needs like really kind of, you need to be able to like hook in like an update loop and just let them do their thing. And then just do stuff.
I mean, there you could just say, like, look, we're going to add new entities. There's a way to add new entities. So there's a way to add new entities, and the entities can have their own code that the other, right? But then all interaction with other entities go through the game's main systems that remain unchanged. So this is like the code part A, code part B, code part C again, right? Where A is like the scaffolding you built up so that you can interact with other things through like one level indirection.
Yeah, like at some point you have like a base game where it's like kind of an experience and like everything's kind of just there. Like you have the idea of like how entities work and some things in the game that are already proven out. Like there's a zombie running around or something in Minecraft's example. And then like, yeah, you kind of just extend that system to add more stuff in.
Modding to me has always been easy. It's just like you do Lua, and then you bind to the important stuff, and then that's literally it.
Hey, so why
when you say you
why
bind,
Lua?
is that the API that you made?
Okay,
Because each
yeah.
Lua mod runs in like its own separate namespace.
Lua is completely virtualized. You can never hack somebody's computer
But
with
you
writing the Lua
virtualize
script.
per mod, right? Like the mods aren't running in the same. They like don't call each other's functions most of the time.
You
Okay,
could have them
so-
call each other's Lua functions, but like
I don't
Okay.
think it's really important to have modders call other functions.
Well, you kind of do a little bit in that like one guy makes the base electricity mod, and then another guy made a
Yeah.
mod.
Yeah,
that
yeah.
Depends on that mod, and he depends on being able to look up and say do something specific with that type of
Yeah.
entity.
So like we're getting into like mod pack design, and that's like something really interesting in Minecraft as well. That's actually how I got started in game dev. Like I was playing Minecraft, and then I would play Minecraft mods, and then make my own mod packs of like connecting all these mods together. I don't know where I was going with that, but
How did they do it?
no clue.
Okay.
well, mod packs interact just again through the like it's if some guy makes a mod that like gives you fire arrows, then that might make it so that the arrow entity has the fire, and then the other guy will just read from that attribute, and then to make it mod compatible, it'd have to be like a string.
Well, best case, if you have some like reflection type system, you know, if you register, like for example, you could imagine that the like okay, the mod at startup get your Lua module or whatever you have gets called, and there's a function that runs to like add all the items into the item database, like Minecraft style.
Right.
And then any other mod can now query like what are all the items, and then maybe that mod is built in such a way that it's like, oh, I want to do this thing if this mod exists, but the mod might not exist.
That's
so
what
it has to
Minecraft
do
does
this
a bit,
thing
yeah.
where it searches the database to find the item, be like, yes, this mod is installed.
All right, so the next thing I want to like touch on real quick is like why Lua versus just ripping it with just loading a DLL.
Because DLL is insecure and
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so now
They're also a massive pain in the ass for like a lot of other reasons.
okay.
Just to compile and like make sure on the right version and like
also
the linking is
modders.
weird.
I know. In my mind, modders. I mean, no offense to modders, but modders are like game developers who aren't as good.
Yeah,
Or they don't
they're
work with
hobbyists.
like a native, like that kind of native toolchain. So, like, you want to optimize for making it easy for people. To
I mean,
make
like
mods.
Lua is like a single C file, and it's like so battle tested. I don't
Okay.
know. I just wouldn't.
Yeah.
I wouldn't touch it.
Yeah, because again, like if you do Lua, like the Roblox developer just knows how to use.
So
the thing.
Roblox actually moved away from Lua. They added.
They
made,
have their own Lua.
Yeah, that's a fun fact that like Philip told me. It was so interesting to me. Roblox, they have such a massive amount of Lua. They actually made their own Lua and added types to it. And like they made the compiler thing, and like I don't know, they basically did like what TypeScript is, but like way more to a too much stronger degree. I don't know. So I don't think this is very interesting. I mean, to me, this is boring because it's like I don't know. I've already thought about these things.
It's interesting to me because like it's kind of what I want to tackle next. I mean, it's okay. So what's top of mind right now is how do I
Add multiplayer.
bring someone else in on the team who I can program gameplay with.
They have to be good, but not only do they have to be good, they have to like speak the same dialect as you. Again, I'm pretty sure if I worked on something with Philip, it'd be easy because he'd just make the right decisions that I would agree with.
Where's Philip?
I don't know who that is. Anyway, multiplayer.
Yeah.
Is it that hard to just bring somebody on and like, I don't know it just doesn't seem like a problem. Like, I don't know.
Okay, actually, the problem is finding other people who are good, actually. So,
Yeah, that's a real.
Do you have a manpower problem or a design problem?
I say manpower. Yeah.
Like, what do you need another man to be doing?
I need another man to take my design that I've already thought up and just go do it and put it in the game and make it like quality enough for it to work.
The problem with that is it wouldn't get done faster. Like you could be. That's not the bottleneck.
Well,
I think.
yeah, because as soon as you move the programming to somebody else, now you're just blocked. You're
Yeah.
Like, oh, I'm waiting for this guy to. finish
Okay,
the
but
thing.
like I'm doing something else in parallel. Like I'm
Like,
working on a different system.
Yeah, if you want to parallelize, that's fine. I mean, I don't know.
Okay, so concrete example, right? Right now in my game, I'm working on an oxygen generator,
Yeah.
right? And there's like a network of oxygen and tethers and stuff, and you put oxygen shards into the generator to generate oxygen.
Yeah.
Now, some other guy could be working on a miner that you put over an ice shard to pull out the ice shards and like turn them into oxygen.
Yeah.
Now, he could do that.
Well, are the ice shards items or?
Items, yeah.
I don't, like Minecraft was made by like one guy. I don't know.
But wait. Going back to your example, like, what are the ice shards? Are they items or are they? How does the miner work?
Items. So you would.
So they're both like a thing with an inventory that you put this item into, and then.
Okay, so if you think about just Factorio, you're putting a drill over a vein of things, and it's just extracting stuff.
Oh, but then
you like
that's
put
like
it
an
into
item
conveyor
on the
belts.
floor.
What's that?
Like it's in Factorio, it's like a tile, but I guess you don't have those.
I have tiles, yeah.
All right, so is it like an ice shard tile?
It's an entity.
But is it a tile?
No.
Okay, so it's just an entity, but you can put it. But it's also kind of different layer because you can put a building on top of it.
Yeah.
Okay. What does the
Anyway,
miner
so
do?
like that could be. Okay, so basically the problem is actually just finding someone.
Look, my strategy in that situation would be like, guy A implements the thing, and he names his ice shards Ice Shard 1. Because I imagine you have a system for items already. He names it Ice Shard 1. And then you make your system and call it Ice Shard 2. And then you both implement the two features, and you're like, oh, great. They don't talk to each other because they use different items. And then you do another commit that's like, oh, I'll just change the other guy's thing to make it use the same item.
No, like ice shards are already there. You can just generate them.
Okay, then that's even easier.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like a completely different system that's like someone else could do, and it'll be fine.
Yeah.
I think the problem is just like finding other people who can do that.
Yeah?
So maybe that's why.
I mean, it's finding good programmers.
Okay.
Sounds like.
But again, it's good programmers that use your style, right?
Okay.
So you're
How do
looking for
we-
people who would have done what you would have done.
How do we define the style? Okay, so
Just
we
write the
alright.
code.
There's a thing where we shit talk OOP a lot.
Yeah.
What is like the thing that we do on a daily basis? Like, how do we define it?
I mean, you could call
I mean,
it like it's COP KC oriented programming. Where
Oh,
you
it's
just,
alright.
where you just constantly LARP KC.
It's
and
called
then you
yeah.
LARP to the same point in space of
Yeah,
programming. style.
it's called watch first 20 episodes of Handmade Hero.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah. I mean, I see it more as there not really being any of these paradigms. Like it's more just doing the thing. Like I don't want to turn that into another paradigm. Just think that's
Well,
the problem.
that's why this thing isn't popular, right? Because you can't make a prescription.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can't make it into a prescription.
Yeah, it's just what problem are we solving? And then we go solve that in the
Yeah.
simplest.
I mean, I
Most
guess
direct way
that's
possible.
the style
Yeah.
you're looking for.
Okay.
Well, again,
So-
it's just what would you have done to implement the thing? You probably have some system for like placeable buildings.
Mm-hmm.
The guy would have just added one of those in that system.
Okay,
He
so
would have added some code. Maybe he added a flag because I know you use flags.
I actually don't think working with someone else is the problem. I think like
Well,
you
wait,
could
wait,
probably
wait.
get away
I think I
with-
realized something. One of the skills you need is like, if I went into your code, I need to see that like, oh, he's doing this flag thing. to change what code runs per entity.
Yeah.
So I'm just gonna like put my thing into that. I'm gonna make a new flag,
Yeah.
right? Whilst I feel like it's about like being able to go in and recognize what is being done and what the intent was, and continue on that intent.
Okay. Yeah. Makes sense. Cool.
I don't know. I mean, I would probably never add somebody to any project I'm ever going to do in my life unless they're super different from the other people and have like a lot of domain expertise. Like I like adding an artist. I like adding like a designer guy or like a gameplay guy, but I like would never duplicate them unless I had some massive thing I wanted to do that wasn't like.
Yeah, that's an interesting thing because it's like, okay, is the bottleneck actually just typing out more systems and doing that? Like, can I sit down every workday and just keep doing that?
What you just described sounds like it would be done in like an hour for me. I don't know.
Yeah.
It doesn't sound like a big problem.
An actual problem might be something for the game that I want to make that I told you about. There's a split point there, which is like making gameplay stuff and the gameplay physics versus networking said physics.
I could see hiring like a networking contractor.
But the networking guy in that case, you have to agree on like, okay, it's going to be rollback networking.
Yeah.
This is how the game state is going to be stored, so you can serialize that and diff it and everything. And then it's like a separate column. Basically, it's like I'm going to write the function that moves from time t to t+1, and then you are going to use that in your rollback netcode to serialize world state, be able to resim forwards. So there's a constraint that I have to make something deterministic, for example.
I think problems like that are easy because like there's a clear boundary, like networking, gameplay, art, sound.
I would never hire somebody with fuzzy boundaries.
Okay.
I will always hire people and make the responsibilities clear and how they're separate from the other people, or else like there's too many cooks in the kitchen. Yeah. I mean, I don't know.
That's nice.
Well, the argument, right, is that two people can't hammer on the same spot at once.
Yeah.
Or if they do, they have to like have some scheme by which they're very well coordinated about hammering on almost the same spot.
Okay, so like how does a game studio with 100 people work?
What you do is you have a director or just some people decide on how they're going to systematize the game, what the parts of the game need to interact with so that they can all collaborate. For example, for Overwatch, they actually made internal tooling that allowed them to design animation systems where effects happened at certain times to do all the ultimate abilities, and that way you can shard out each hero. Like that's an
then you can have like each ultimate ability can
different
be like
person.
A programmer plus artist.
Yeah,
can work on that, and it fits into this like it only interacts with code A that exists already and doesn't change.
But like the effort to shard out work, and again, this doesn't happen automatically with a game engine either. I've known many people who are hired to work on game engine projects, and because they didn't think about this, people just keep adding like game objects, and they're all bespoke, and then it just like blows up, and the project blows up on itself. Like you just have to have a process person and think about it. Like people require a lot of upfront work, and they're only worth it if they have some kind of like high leverage to how much time you spend thinking about them, activity they can perform. Right, or like they know stuff you don't.
The sharding is the Conway's Law thing. Right?
Yeah.
So you're saying I'm going to break up how the humans interact into these teams, and that necessarily will be reflected in the end product and how the code works.
Like something like Smash Bros, it's so easy. Just each champion is different teams of animators, modelers, programmers, and designers. And then like there's one team that's doing the system that adds everything together.
Yeah.
And
then you can have things like, oh, we want to do this, so that you need like a little bit of interdepartmental.
Yeah.
Like our character needs to be able to do this, but we don't have an API for that. So core team, can you please add that functionality because we need.
Yeah. They make requests to each other. I mean, you know.
But it's like there. It's like it's a wheel with one hub and lots of spokes.
Yeah. You do want something like a wheel, I think. Like, you know, for something like the new Space Engineers prototype, I literally think it's like 2 to 3 guys and it started pretty well. I don't know. Like you can't do something new.
Are they doing a sequel?
Yeah, they're doing a sequel with like Water Sim, and like
with what?
Yeah,
I'm look forward to seeing how that turns out.
I think the game design will still be bad, but
I am inclined to agree. But at least it's going to run instead of running like 2004. They're going to actually design for multi-threaded.
It's all C++. Yeah.
Wait, it wasn't before?
It's all C#. Yeah, the voxel engine for Space Engineers is C#.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it's pretty.
But look, using C++ is like 2004 technology. My problem is that they like did everything assuming gaming PCs are single core.
Yeah.
Like, now you have a 32 core machine, or even you have this server you want to put lots of people on. You can get a 64 core server now.
It's funny because Space Engineers is like an embarrassingly parallel problem.
Yes.
So that is pretty funny.
Okay, let's backpedal a bit. Who are you and what do you do?
I don't know. I just got here like 30 minutes ago and I don't know why.
Okay.
I have no recent memories.
The oldest thing I can remember is pressing the record button. I can't remember anything before.
No, it's the opposite, right? I have a history and a background, but I don't know what happened the last year.
Okay, so what's your history and background?
I don't know. I just do stuff like just know.
Sick.
Me too, yeah.
Well, you did play GPT?
Play GPT was kind of interesting. I don't know. I feel like it definitely bones me out how ineffective AI is at making something with meat to it. That was my whole ambition the whole time, was like, what if you could do some kind of adventure game where AI was the meat? Because what I think that, like, to me, for games, you're always looking for new meat. You want like something, like, just think about every good game. They're all doing something that's really specific and different, and they required like specific knowledge.
It seemed as well that your initial intrigue was, hey, if I use these new GPT things for this,
it's unexplored.
It will be, yeah, but the theory was it will automatically get solved really well.
Yeah.
By this thing, and then
I expected to do a lot of manual design work. I didn't think it would do a lot of work for me. But what I was trying to figure out is, like, is there a way to use this completely novel technology to create interesting gameplay that's never been done before? And I did not find anything.
How long did you try?
Like 8 months. And I tried a lot of things.
On a 2-week side project.
Yeah, so it was originally supposed to be 2 weeks. But I kept going, like, there has to be something here. I legitimately would be surprised if there's a big game where GPT is the meat at this point. I just think that, like, it's not a useful game design tool. I think that they'll make Skyrim NPCs talk to you, but you'll never need to talk to them to beat the game in any substantial way. The deepest thing is, like, I need to get some information from them that I don't have yet, like murder mystery. Yeah. But that's such a shallow interaction because you're just basically trying to force an alien intelligence to output some text that you know is in the prompt somewhere. And it's just not a game. It's like annoying.
I mean, maybe you could get the ultimate thing is like a game about diplomacy.
That's what I was thinking it would be, kind of like.
Right. But then you need something where it's like, yeah, diplomacy is...
If you take games that are about diplomacy, like Civ 6, Civ 5, or like The Sims, they have systems for how people normally behave that are interpretable and make sense, and they're like discrete. You can look like, okay, that guy needs this, and then it becomes an interesting puzzle. But with GPT, because it's so soft, there's no rules for how it acts. It'll just be random. Like, it's trying to duplicate... Technically, what a GPT is a model for how text behaves on the internet. And it's completely opaque. And so I just don't think... I think it can be like interesting, flowery flavor to a game.
Yeah, okay, so the use case I thought of for was I was writing the Godstone tutorial guy in Arcana.
Yeah.
And I thought of like, okay, so there's like a set amount of guide instructions, like just one sentence things that the player can get, like the guide in Terraria, how you just like spam the help button. He'll just like give you pretty much like goals to do in the game and like things that you can go pursue. I was thinking of that, but like as a GPT, and then like you could just...
So what you want is the website support chatbot. But
those
literally.
suck.
Yeah, you want that. Yeah, you want that, but good. Where it's
the reason
you press the button and you're like, how do I get stone.
Yeah.
And he's like, you go over to the stone, you press E.
I think it'd be easier from a game perspective because it's just text. Like you're not trying to like refund a customer or something like that. Like it's like you're not trying to do a bunch of different actions.
I doubt actually I think the website chat help bots could be good as well. They just aren't empowered enough.
I don't think they can be good because what you want in that case is like search, like document search.
Well, no, but that could be the reason I think they suck is that they're given a very narrow authority for security purposes because it's an on the internet attack surface.
Yeah.
Right? Like what you want from a support agent is like, oh yeah, sure, I understand that was a mistake. I'll refund you the money now.
Oh, they don't refund. I mean,
right,
like,
you can't actually hook it up to any serious action. So all they can do is provide you information. Most of the time, the support, it's Conway's Law again, where, like, for example, we were having like problems with a Wi-Fi router, and then what I want to go is I actually want to talk because I want to talk to the like engineer guy. I don't want to talk to the like normie targeted. Have you plugged it in? Or like, did you make sure to try factory resetting the device? And I'm like, yes, I did that. That doesn't work.
Yeah, I don't know. The authority problem isn't it to me because like the actual problem is there's just some information you need that you don't have yet. And so at best, it will help you find information that somebody else has described to it as correct.
Yeah.
And that's search. What you would want in the case of the tutorial thing is like, I would probably do.
Put all the stuff in the prompt.
No.
You have a big prompt.
Like typing words is a really annoying way to query something in a game.
You want like voice to text. So you want to push to talk.
That's so bad.
How do I do Y?
No, you would do like.
I mean, like now that I actually think about this, is it's just like way too complex and like what problem does it solve?
I think it would magically solve the problem of instead of having a tutorial with a linear order, as soon as the player gets stuck, they do push. How does this work again? And then they get like a little boop comes up.
That's search. That's search.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
Search.
So the useful thing about the guide in Terraria is you walk up to him when you don't know what to do, and he gives you ideas of what to do.
Right. Yeah, no, it wouldn't be like that. I'm basically thinking search because in many games I start playing them and they have complicated systems. And I do search, I Google, and then I read the Reddit post on how to do the
thing that I'm going to say next is like, because now that I've established rhetorically that it's about search, you can, as a designer, with the full knowledge of the game in your UI, make a much, much better way to index your information of how to play the game than asking a question or typing something or saying something.
Yeah.
Like what you would do if you had like a big kind of RPG game is you would have probably a wheel menu with pictures of like each category of stuff, and then it's like you flick to it and then it shows you very interesting and engaging like diagrams or videos or just something simple. Like I wouldn't ever do text. It's not the best thing.
I would like text search as well, because often I find that like they added this to the game. But even if you have like flowery interesting documentation, you could have a GPT that like I just can fuzzy search, but I type the thing and I press enter and then it like boop,
I think that like
page in the guide.
Like fuzzy search makes sense for programmers because everything is text, but for a game it's just so like.
That's why I want ChatGPT search, right? Because I want it to like. Well, I want Google for the in-game index in that case.
That's why. Well, if you're a game designer, don't make something that requires Google. That's a bad game design.
It all like rounds back to that where it's like.
It's a bad experience to like need to look through docs.
That's what the wiki page is, right? You have like I'm on the this mod wiki to how do I make the blah 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 item.
It's a major priority for me that you never need something like the Terraria wiki for Asterisk. I just think that's such a mistake.
Okay, so what is Asterisk?
It's like Terraria in space where everything's a rigid body or simulated. So like instead of it being on a grid world, everything is in 2D
Well, there are
voxel
grids. I think going from Space Engineers is a better analogy.
Yeah, it's like 2D Space Engineers, but designed really well, and like the space between things is compressed, so you can actually in 30 minutes go from caveman to space frigate and actually like play a game that's not wasting your time, where you mine for 4 hours and then it gets blown up for some reason. Like, I don't know. It's just supposed to be a very interesting exploration of like what it means to engineer for fun or like for meaning, like to solve problems in an engaging way, where there's something directly in front of you that needs doing. Like, I need to make a bomb slingshot to kill my friend is a much more relevant problem than like in your physics class and they hypothetically do it for you. I don't know. That's what's always been so interesting to me about games, is like when they have clear and present, like, you know, situations to solve. So I just want to make a version of that that's kind of new and presents them rapidly in a well-designed way.
Hey, what's the tech you're doing for that?
I don't know. You just gotta, because of the networking constraints around, like, it's an open world game where everything's a rigid body. I'm having to rapidly create and destroy the world when there's something like network desyncs. And so I'm just writing everything from scratch that relates to gameplay and networking. I already actually made this game and it was working really well. And I did that all in C, but now it's just in Jai, and like, I don't know, I guess the technical stuff to me I never think about, because like it's not an issue for me. It's always about the design and like, why is it exciting? And like, what trade-offs am I making and what I'm going to implement today? Those are the super, super hairy decisions that impact so much. Like this idea that I did have this idea for something I really, really wanted to do, where modding is made to be something that's in universe. So this was one of I really want to figure out how to do this someday. But
what do you mean by in universe?
So each block is actually made of parts. So like every block in the game, you can like put it on like, you know, the block maker machine and inspect it. And it's made of little circuit bits that like plug into each other that define the logic of the block. And so when you want to, you can make new blocks by like putting new circuits in the thing.
Oh, that's what you mean by modding in the game.
Would you do
yeah.
I mean, I guess you could, like story-wise, but to me that makes sense. As like, you've been playing this game for so far, and then you are able to make the block. It's like a science discovery.
It's kind of like a little bit of the Space Engineers, like scripting. I can't remember exactly what it is, but
they have like scriptable blocks and stuff. But my whole idea with it being physical is like, I would want to make a physical circuit system that imposes restraints on what you can do. So like, if you want to spawn something, it has to actually have like the energy inputs in the circuit to do that. Yeah.
StarMade has the like, you can put a logic block anyway, and then there's like a connection system. So you can see, and then on a block to be like, I'm connecting this thing to some slave blocks, and that means something. But then it's like any block can be connected to anything else on a grid.
Yeah, my whole idea is for that is like, it's pretty common in these kind of builder survival games that like you make a drone that has some logic that does stuff, and that's already pretty exciting and interesting. But to me, I want to see like the chemistry version of that, where like some dude that I'm fighting in this multiplayer survival game has a block that doesn't exist yet, that does some crazy thing that's possible in the universe that I didn't know about. Like actual straight up alchemy. Like this dude made a block that's like melting my ship when I like get near it, and he's pouring energy into it. There would be a lot. I would want to make something that's like dynamic and simple.
It feels like you would have to, like, for that to be good, you would have to have basically gone ahead and made most of the discoveries.
Yeah,
like it feels almost like a puzzle game.
Pre-populate it,
yeah.
No, not pre-populated. Just like design the constraints in such a way that it's like you have to do the finely tuned universe, but for this game,
like
you have to know about all the things that can be done, and then
in order
not
to do
tell
that,
anybody.
In order to do that, you have to know, and like, I don't mean like pre-populate, like actually put it in the game, but like
you have to
do the content yourself, make sure it works, and then like
absolutely,
and then not tell anybody.
Yeah. Well, that's typically how these things happen. Like, I mean, I don't think that what I've described has ever been done in the game, where like in a physically restrained in-universe modding system that is non-textual.
Well, in theory, Minecraft crafting is a little bit like that in the beginning.
It tried to be.
Yeah,
it tried to be what I'm describing.
Maybe during the night while this is before beds, right? During the night, you're going to be at the crafting table trying to find new recipes. Free grid.
Exactly. Yeah, it's like a very primitive version of this.
Intuitive.
Yeah,
it's supposed to be like intuitive.
It's supposed to be intuitive. Yeah, I mean, that kind of discovery.
Then they transitioned away from that, and it's like every new update they publish
the recipes.
Yeah, and then they just went straight to children are playing this, and so we are just gonna, like, in order to have a more broader appeal, we're just gonna add the recipe book in game. So now you can search the item, press, and then it shows you.
Yeah, I mean, so much of these like games that were very salient to me, like Minecraft and Space Engineers in Terraria, or like the big three. There's so many problems in them, like literally 100 game design problems. Then I'm like, oh, this should obviously be like this. I don't know. That's mostly what I'd be trying to do with Asterisk, is like make something that's just much better. Now with the context of the past and what we have in the future. Yeah, I don't know.
What do you do, Sam?
I make this operating system called Serenum because I think operating systems are bad and things are too complicated. So, I mean, this is not everything, but one example of such a thing is, why can I not just write a really simple program that puts pixels on the screen? Why is it this insane, like I have to get an OpenGL context or use GLFW, use a library? It should be really basic. And so, yeah, that's one of the things. Why can I not just send like IP packets from a machine, etc.? And so, and then when you have the opportunity to redesign an OS and redesign it in a way that's incompatible. So the big thing people do when they make like new OSs, or they make niche OSs, is they try to be POSIX compatible or like Linux compatible.
Don't do that.
Because then they're like, oh, that's how I will solve the problem of having software to run on my OS, is that I'll make it just like that other OS, and then things will be able to easily be ported.
This is a vicious cycle.
Yeah, so then you end up with like all the OSs are, it's basically Linux clones or Unix clones and Windows and Plan 9, which did a few different things.
People have tried to make Windows compatible operating systems too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so there's this interesting cycle where, like, if you're actually going to do a different design, then you've already burned everybody. There are no programs for your operating system.
Right.
And it will not be trivial to port things. But what that then means is, that means the cost of experimentation or the cost of making other changes has gone to zero because I already burned everybody.
Right.
It's like you burn all your social connections and now you have nothing to lose. Right. So that means I get to think about like, how actually would you do this thing? And then also there's a big trap. Way too many people design OSs and they're like, they have theoretical ideas of how to do things that don't pan out in practice.
Yeah.
That are kind of tar pits. We disagree on this one, but the like, for example, with code and programming, everybody and their dog says that, textual programming language is so bad. Like, what we want is this like better thing.
This feels like an obscure sect of like Handmade than like a common opinion.
Yeah. Yeah.
I have no idea what you're talking about.
Okay.
You know Dion?
Yeah.
I've told you about, you were actually excited when I described you my idea of like a non-textual programming thing that was good.
Okay, no, sorry.
Collaboration.
I understand what it is. It's textual versus non-textual, right?
Yeah.
But what's your take on the whole thing?
Well, the reason it's dumb is because I have a keyboard.
Yeah.
So I'm going to type it. So it might as well be text.
What are you typing when you're doing text?
Characters.
No, but what is the meaning of the characters in a program?
What do you mean? Oh, like, they get sorted into tokens and they have some relationship to each other.
Well, here's another reason why this is ridiculous.
Yeah.
I have a keyboard. Why am I using my mouse in Blender? I have a keyboard. Why am I using like a tool?
Yeah, you could do that thing, which is like, this is what Ryan's opinion, right? Which is like, if you Google the futuristic like computer system, you'll get some like stock image of a guy with a stylus drawing in midair.
No. That's not even what I mean. I mean, what I was trying to get at is like the part of programs that is text is just names for nodes on a syntax tree, and the rest of it is how you organize them. My vision of a non-textual programming world would have rich keyboard controls. I think you could get to like like 150 to 200% the efficiency of Vim.
You could do the Terry Davis thing, which is like, I'm going to develop a scheme for embedding arbitrary data, including 3D models, into the text file, and then my editor will support that.
No. Like what I mean is like, imagine how much better you could design Vim if you knew you were navigating a parse tree. You would do.
Oh, sure.
If you do something like %, it has to literally go in the text and look for that character, and it fails often. But you could just have a button in this editor that goes up a scope, or down a scope, or drill in or drill out, or move this out.
So the thing
it just becomes so fast.
The thing I do agree on with everybody, I think what people are actually striving for when they say this, is they want good IDEs.
Yeah.
And so I'm on the train for like good IDEs, and that means like you invest in tooling that isn't a language server. That's really dumb.
Here's another example of what I mean. Like, I think that you couldn't make Blender, Figma, basically any tool good if you were serializing to text that had to look like what you were making.
But yeah, I don't think I programmed like, I've just yet to see any maybe like blueprints or whatever. I've yet to
blueprints
see any
are bad.
procedural programming that doesn't look like I run text.
No, but it would look linear. It would look top to bottom, and it would be organized. But the whole point is like, I think that the text as a medium makes it so much harder to do all these things is the problem. And once you say like,
yeah, maybe.
And then the compiler gets easier. There's no more tokenizer. Everything gets easier.
But again,
the tokenizer is the easiest part. Yeah, it's the code gen that's hard.
Even passing, if you design a language with simple tooling in mind, like how do I make this easy?
Yeah.
On tooling, on like making the tooling, then all this stuff is really easy.
Kind of the thing that I'm imagining is not just a refactor to make the editing of this code easier, but think about if you had one person who was smart, who was kind of like a director of creative new things, and they wrote a debugger, a new programming environment that's multiplayer and like works well automatically. You could just have somebody replace.
So this I agree with. So maybe I should fill in that I'm doing Suriname, but the idea is to like air gap from all the previous old crafty stuff.
Yeah.
And so there's also a programming language and an editor, and all the tools are going to be from scratch and everything, and it's all self-hosted.
Yeah.
And it doesn't use LLVM, all this stuff. So it's a little bit like Urbit in that way, except imagine if Urbit developers used Urbit to make Urbit.
Right.
Which they don't.
Yeah, Urbit runs on Linux. It's terrible.
What's Urbit?
It's so hard to explain.
All right.
Yeah.
Let's skip it.
We're not gonna.
You can. Okay. What do you do, Charlie?
I'm not sure. I do programming.
Nice.
Yeah. Right now, I guess I do course videos as well to learn C for the Ooga Booga school community.
Do you have the URL memorized?
Oh yeah, it's school.com.
SKLL school spelled with the K.com/game-dev.
Yeah.
That's a good link.
Yeah.
I didn't know you got that.
Snagged that. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
So like, the thing that Charlie and I are trying to do right now is just basically, because it's like that problem of like, okay, so what's like, when we say OOP is bad, what's like the opposite of just like doing something direct and solving the problem? So what I do is I'm making a game right now where I'm basically just recording the entire process and talking about my reasoning behind doing certain things. And now I'm doing it all just basically myself, so I can take a lot of shortcuts, not use the ECS, just write everything in a big entity structure, not split things out into multiple files, all this kind of stuff. Just like caveman, type this stuff out and get the game working. And so what Charlie does is like, we have a line of, you're just doing tooling, right?
Pretty much, yeah. I mean, for the game from scratch to Steam game, I did the Ooga Booga library that's used in the course.
So it's just like Raylib, but
not OpenGL is the biggest thing to me. Why I would want to use Ooga Booga. Legitimately. Raylib OpenGL is so bad.
Yeah. It's a game library, and it's sort of it's very, it's like trying to just, I mean, it's also like a standard library to really sort of try and keep away all the noise from when you're working in C or whatever. So it's like just this low level thing that just gives you the very minimum tools to just go ahead and go out and start making a game.
Yeah. We're kind of like, we're lined up in order of abstraction, in like order of what level we work at. Like you're at OS, you're trying to make an OS. You're trying to like basically do a game engine.
See, Sam had to actually write font rendering. You can write font rendering like him, but he actually wrote font rendering. There's a big difference.
Yeah.
Well, how do you do font rendering in Ooga Booga?
He makes the quads and puts the UVs on the font atlas correctly.
Right, so you turn fonts into something to feed DirectX.
Yeah, I rasterize.
That's a function that somebody else wrote.
I write the tight assembly loop with this specific CPU in mind for how, and then I serialize out the exact bit map. Like I offline convert to the exact format so I can like load something into the CPU, and then the bits are lined up to turn on and off which color to write.
All the way on the other end, Randy writes draw text.
I write draw text. Yeah.
No.
And you're a web developer right now.
to be fair, I write that.
Not even on the
function.
map anymore.
There's like an assembly loop that's like 80 lines or something. Then there's like another small function, and that's draw text. So I also type draw text most of the time. Except
So
then I have problems where like I do draw text close to the edge of the screen, and then it like wraps around because the memory of the frame buffer
Oh no.
goes scans, and then I go I have to do clipping, and then I have to go change my thing.
But like that's like the reason Randy can't just do draw text is because you have to go through all this pain in Windows and a graphics API or something. So yeah, that's why what I'm imagining like Serenum to be is just like you can just do these super simple things because they're actually super simple and trivial, and you shouldn't have to go through all the insane APIs.
You can do like step into step assembly and like immediately there's like tiny amount of code. It's like a function call away, the actual instructions on a CPU doing the drawing.
Yeah.
Whilst with DirectX, it's like, I call into this DLL that goes to that DLL into a driver. It gets converted. There's a compilation step. It goes on some mystery that I don't know what it is.
Like a DLL bonanza.
DLL bonanza. I'm using this DirectX feature that I don't know if it's supported on all cards.
And DirectX is the good world.
Yeah.
OpenGL is the bad world. DirectX is pretty good.
OpenGL is like NVIDIA compiles my shader wrong. And so on some cards
and
it
like
doesn't
differently
work.
On every system.
Yeah. And in Vulkan they have the like, because we were trying to target we tried to make an abstraction of a mobile GPUs and desktop GPUs, which means there are like tons of artificial constraints, which means I need to compile 20,000 shaders for my game to do all the permutations. And they chose LLVM as the compiler thing. So and it's specific to the person's card. So I need like on the guy's machine that I'm shipping the game to, compile 20,000 different versions of a shader that could be the same shader, but isn't because Vulkan.
It's okay. Steam made tooling for it. You just solve the human problem with more software. Then nobody needs to talk to each other and figure things out.
Yeah.
I'll just work within whatever you wrote.
Yeah, then you get to like, I download the game, and then the next step after that is Steam like bakes the shaders for an hour for your graphics card.